Right, we're all set. There's no disturbance in the water. Look, the water's still. Map. Guru. Large Preston. Small Preston. Small Drennan. We'll have to have the. We'll put the large Drennan there in front of that. Let's see what's happening. Anything happening? This mix isn't a fast mix. When I'm testing feeders, my thinking is I don't want a super fast mix because it will all be over in too quick. I want a medium mix. This is which this is. Well, the disappointing one is the large Drennan, but I suppose it did go in last, so I suppose it's a few seconds behind, so we'll have to allow for that. Just shocking, that, isn't it? Look, there's not even any pellets hiding the main height area of the feeder, which is what you're trying to do. That's the whole idea, to try and hide the feeder, you know, like these. That's why they make them camouflaged, you know. So basically avoid this large Drennan. The map ain't bad at all. In fact, it's between the map and the large Preston. I'd give it to the large Preston. It's got a much higher hill, hasn't it? So this is why I like the Prestons. You get a better offload. It's about the most self-righting. It's quite a low one. See, what you got to remember is the map. It's like a shoe. It's quite high at the back. It's kind of a little bit unnatural. If you're in a clear lake, carp's going to come along. It's not going to go anywhere near that Drennan. I know that for a fact. And I don't like the map because it's convexed on the bottom. It's curved basically on the bottom. So it's very rocky, you know. I mean, the Drennan did go in last, but we've had lots of time now. Look, it's nothing about the time, you know. The map was good, actually. The Guru's a bit disappointing. The large Preston's good. The little Preston's sort of okay. I suppose the little Drennan's kind of acceptable. And the big failure of that test is this large Drennan. Little note about sizing. Most of the big brands, the larges are large. So we've got a Guru 28. It's the same size as the map. Turn it that way. Same size as the map 28. Roughly the same size as the Drennan. The anomaly is the Prestons, which are really a lot bigger. Or a bit bigger anyway, put it that way. There's this area as well, in the front area. So they're a little bit bigger, just bear that in mind. And if you were to go to the small Preston, they're a little bit smaller. So you can't get a... If you're testing feeders, it's where I'm coming from. It's not... you just got to bear that in mind. So it's not a fair comparison to test either of these against the Guru. So what I've found is, through all the testing, is people think of feeders as the size and the weight. So the weight as in how far they can cast. The size and weight just to not spook the fish, you know, to try and use the smallest one. so that you don't spook the fish. But bear in mind, most of us fish a bolt system, so if you go too light, like this is 15 grams, that wouldn't be heavy enough to maybe cause a hook, you know, on its own, you know. You might have to strike or something like that. So that's the size, and there's an anomaly with the Guru Hybrid Large is 28 grams, but the Guru Medium is 32 grams. It's 4 grams heavier, and if you put one on top of the other, it is a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter, about a millimetre, that's all it is. It's nothing that way. But it's 4 grams heavier. Now you might think that's not a lot, but when you feel this and then feel that, it's considerable. Or when you feel have hold of that one and then you feel that one, it feels so light. So there's a big difference there. I just thought I'd point that out. So anyway, if we come back to this line up here, the great thing about the interchangeable system, if you go down my suggested route, see my video, I propose using the map, getting the map stems, get a pair of map stems, £2.40 and you're away. But whatever way you go, the great thing, the interchangeability, you can start off the day with a feeder, a big bait feeder, that's a large one. It's a Preston's 20 gram large feeder, or there's a small one, 20 grams, to get your bait in. You could use a cage feeder, does the same thing, you know. That's heavier, so that'll cast further. Depends how far you want to cast your bait. So yeah, I tend to use that. Or a pellet feeder. You can get a lot of bait in a pellet feeder. You know, the great things about pellet feeders, you can have your bait hanging out. They sometimes get a very fast offload with a pellet feeder just because of the design. You can get a light one that's very inconspicuous. You can drop it in where the fish are and not spook them. Obviously, the method feeders come into their own if you're in the height of summer and shallow fishing. But basically, you could start off, let's say, on a standard large feeder, 28 grams, right? And you think, oh, right, I'm missing a few bites. I think they're not hooking. So you can go into the larger one. Well, it's smaller in size, but heavier, as I mean. Yeah, that might help the bolt effect. Or you can put more feed in and go on to a Preston. It's got quite a considerable larger area, so you're going to have a larger plate. Introduce more food. Or the other way, go to a smaller one, yeah. Or you could even say, right, I'll try maggots. And I've been feeding maggots in the margin. Now I'll put a maggot feeder on my stem, yeah. Put a maggot feeder on my stem, and I'll have a little spell down on the margins on the maggot. You can do all this, you know, and the list goes on. There's a few that I forgot about, can't think offhand, but there's even more, yeah. All that you can interchange within a second. And then we come on to the Drennan. Now you can't do anything unless you cut your line. You've got to cut your line to take this off and get another one on. So say I want to go into a smaller one. I can't, you know, the stem is inbuilt. It's moulded in. Yeah, you can't drill that out. I've thought about modding it. There's no way you can drill hard plastic out and even try and put a little bar across to get it like a map stem, and it's impossible. You know, you're stuck with that. So if I decide I want to go into a smaller one, well, I've got to cut my line and then to put it on. It just, you know, in this day and age when we've got all this interchangeability, to be stuck with that, it's just a no-no in my eyes. It's just a big no-no.